Hi, thanks very much for joining us. I'm Alison from NAPA Arts in Care Homes, and this is the first in a series where I'm going to be talking to artists and asking them to share some creative inspiration for nice activities that you can do in your care settings. So today I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Katie. And would you like to tell us a little bit about your practice, Katie? Maybe show us a bit of your artwork and your experience of working in care settings as well.
Hi, Alison. That's great. So my name's Katie and I'm a visual artist that likes to work with all types of people, all ages, to inspire creativity in them. So I like to set up art workshops and art activities that everybody can enjoy doing. My own artwork, I would like to share a little bit of that to show you.
Let's have a look. Let's
have a look. So my own artwork looks a lot at nature and the environment. So I do like to take my inspiration from the beautiful things we see in the natural world, such as plants and animals, insects, etc., and landscapes. And obviously this is something great to do in the summer a bit more, but in the winter I like to think a little bit more about something closer to home, like interiors, etc. So for this project I was inspired by starting to think about the medium of tea to spark ideas for creativity, and that's what we're going to be looking at in this session.
Fantastic. Yes, we're going to, so the image you're going to share with us is about tea, and we're going to tell people ways that they can adapt the image to reflect their care setting. What was your inspiration behind this image, Katie?
So thanks for asking that, because it's always good to go back to the beginning of how something got started. And my inspiration for this image was this absolutely beautiful teapot, which features something called the blue and white willow pattern. If you look underneath, it just shows you there a little bit. It's an ironstone, English ironstone tableware. And I'd love to find out a lot more about the history of this, but that was kind of my inspiration starting point.
It's a lovely shape, that teapot, isn't it? It's really nice.
It apparently actually technically is a coffee pot.
Oh, yes.
And I'd love to know why a coffee pot is taller than a teapot, other than to differentiate it, but somebody probably knows that answer.
There probably is a reason, isn't it?
There must be a reason. Maybe it has to have like more water to the tea to sort of let it all flow out. I don't know, but yeah, it's a gorgeous shape. And that's how I get started. I sort of start off with one inspiring thing, and then, you know, I start making sketches, but we'll go into those in a bit more detail.
Fantastic. Yes. So, I mean, this tea party image, it's something that people could make. We've got the National Day of Arts in Care Homes coming up on the 24th of September. So it might be something that care settings want to give it a try. We're also working on a project called Care Home Twinning, which is linking up care homes with international partners. So that might be something to think about. But we'd love to hear more about the tea party idea, and maybe you could show us a little bit some tips on how to create that image.
Absolutely, Alison. So let's get started on that. I'm just going to flip my camera so you can see my desktop.
Lovely.
So here we have a picture of the finished piece that I'm going to take you through some of the steps to make it. There will be a resource for you to use that has step-by-step instructions of everything you'll need to make this, but I just want to go over a few of the bits so that you can see how that works. So if you look at this picture, I'm just going to zoom out a little, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit more and move that so it's filling the frame as much as we can. So if we look at this picture, essentially we've got a yellow background, which is a yellow piece of paper, so it's much easier if you start off with a great background color. Could be any color. I've just chosen, this is my color scheme. And we've got the yellow piece of paper, and then the individual items on this are actually mostly collaged. So you don't have to worry, you're making them on a separate piece of paper and then adding them in by sticking them on with a few bits of drawing in the background. So I'll just take you through a couple of the techniques that I'm going to be using that, again, are in more detail in the instructions. So in order to make this teapot, I mean, one of the things that people often worry about is, you know, how to draw objects, worrying that they look right and worrying that they look realistic. And I just want to take all the worry out of that, because this is designed to be easy and it's designed to be fun. And I'm just going to show you some tricks of the trade. So I'm just going to show you on another piece of paper here. Okay, so I would be making this teapot on a separate piece of paper, not drawing it onto the yellow. So I've got my piece of paper. Now, I like to use a template shape. So I'm using this small, normal, standard size saucer.
Yeah.
This one measures about 15 across. I guess it's a kind of standard size.
Yeah.
So if I just pop that down there, and I just use a pencil to draw around it, I've got my perfect base for my teapot. And then what I can do, if you look at the one that I've made earlier, you can see then I've added in a spout and a handle and a lid. And there's another kind of curved shape here for the lid. So all I would do there is just move the saucer up a little bit to about there. And that's how I'll get my lid. I can draw my own little bobble on the top, or if you really don't want to draw a circle, you could always draw around something small like a Pritt stick or a coin even. And then the same for the handle. I'm going to use a smaller template. So I'm using this roll of tape. You could draw around a tin, something like a tin can would work, but sellotape's good as well. Anything that's round, doesn't have to be this precise size and shape, but you could, for example, just do that. And there you've got your handle. Okay. And then with the spout, again, if we go back to the original drawing, what I did is I just got a ruler and just lined up so I could see where I was heading. And I do a little mark about there. Then I get my tape. If I want to, I could do it like that. Or I could just freehand draw that. Okay, but that just allows you to get all of your shape into it, and you can obviously shape that and refine it down. Bearing in mind you're going to be cutting it out later. Yeah,
and that really helps, because I mean, we hear a lot about people that really feel like they can't draw. They're really worried about drawing. So it's a really good way in, isn't it? Because you're just using a really good way in. Guide. Yeah.
And like here, for example, I've just refined that down. So I've just used my basic shape and then shaped it how I'd like it to be. Okay. So that's kind of one step that you can use for drawing these kinds of shapes. You can just get the basic shape and then refine it, smooth it to the shape you want it to be. The next thing I'm going to demonstrate is how to, so that's kind of how I do the teapot. Actually, I will show you how I do the cup, just because it's a similar but smaller version. So again, I'm just taking something small and round like this sellotape, like that. And then I'm moving it there to create this, the top part of the cup, like that. This is quite small. I feel confident in just doing my little handle myself like that. But if you, again, didn't feel confident doing that, you could just pop it round and do it like that. And that's your cup. I'm going to do another edge here. And obviously this isn't designed to be at a realistic angle. It's designed to be at a more decorative kind of angle, as you can see.
Yeah, so you can see the T nice and clearly.
Exactly, you can see the T. A bit of a, I'd call it a bit of a Picasso type angle, because you're seeing it on the side and above at the same time. If it's good enough for Picasso, it's good enough for us.
Absolutely.
So that's how you tackle drawing that. Now I'm going to show you how to do a really fun technique, which is called wax resist. And for that, you use a candle. You could also use something like a tea light or a small birthday candle, but I've just got a regular candle. And what you do is you just, so on the teapot, on the finished piece, I've just included kind of some swirly lines all across it, really quite scribbly, and a couple of lines across and around the edges. I'm just going to do that on this teapot and just show you how I've done that. So obviously it's a bit a bit tricky in that you can't see what you're doing, but it doesn't really matter, and that's kind of part of the fun. So I'm just doing a general swirly motion across.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm going to do a couple of stripes across, and again, don't worry if these go into a different kind of a shape. Now I'm just going to outline where the handle edges are, like that. A bit of an outline on there, okay, and then I'm just going to put an outline around the whole thing.
So that's just a normal candle you're using.
It's a normal
wax candle.
regular candle. It's a
Yep.
bit of an old one, actually. As you can see, it's not even straight. It's had its day, but you know,
Yep.
it's useful for this. And you could, as I said, use if you had a white wax crayon, equally you could use a white wax crayon, but I mean the candle seems to work well.
Yeah.
So once I've got that, I've got my little palette. Again, you don't have to have a palette. You can just use a jam jar lid, or really anything, or ice cube tray, anything. You're only going to need, you know, one color. And I've got a little pot with some water, and I've got here a small brush, not a very, very small dainty brush, but it's kind of like on the smaller side of as brushes go, as you can see. So what I'm going to do then is I've got some watercolor paints here. You could use watercolor paints if you have them available, but equally you could use food coloring if you had that available. You could use any other type of paint you have, but it just needs to be thin, basically, just thin and see-through. That's all. It doesn't have to be.
So those kind of blocks of powder paint that
those are absolutely fine. Yeah, any kind of block water-based paint would be fine. Absolutely. So I'm just going to go in here, and I'm going to put a bit of water here just to make myself a little well of water, as it were. Then I dip my wet brush into my chosen colour for the teapot. In this case, it is blue. And I can make a bit of put a little bit there, add a bit more water. And then the magical bit comes in. I literally paint over the wax area, and you will see the design comes out.
That is so cool, and so much fun as well.
It's
and
so much fun.
Like you say, it's magic, isn't it?
It is. It's like magic writing. I mean, as a child, I do remember there being some kind of pen that you could do this invisible writing with.
Definitely, I used to love them. Yeah,
it's just gorgeous. Incredible. Exactly, it's quite a simple thing.
And the effect is really nice, isn't it? It's really looks lovely. Yeah,
it's a quality effect, and you can see you could do a lot more with that. You know, if you wanted to explore that. So, but look how quickly I've been able to just create that really lovely painterly effect. And again, you know, I'm going in. What's nice when you do it round the handle and round the lid is it gives you also a slight impression of it being a ceramic surface, because it's got that shininess to it. You know, and I could always go back and add more color just to make bits of it a bit darker, like towards the bottom, if you could imagine. But it really just does work for what we're doing.
Lovely, lovely.
Okay, so that's the wax resist technique. Then I want to show you something else, which is also a bit of fun and something a little bit different that you might not have ever come across before. And that is using coffee as a painting medium. So I've got here a little mini jar with a little bit of just instant coffee, the cheapest one possible. Even, you know, those little sachets that you get, anything like that. Then I'm just going to tip a little bit of that into the well, like that. And I've got my water. So I'm going to just put a bit of, whoops, it's still blue. I should have rinsed my brush out, but never mind. Let's put some there. Right, I've just got some water. And then I might just dip that and put it in, just because if I put the water in, it would be very thick and dark straight off. Now with this, I've made, I'd say like a medium pale, whoops, this has just got wet, just a moment. See if I've got a bit of tissue. There we go. Don't really want that to happen. Okay.
I mean, it's such a great, I love this idea. So you're making coffee, basically adding the water to the coffee grains, and you're going to use it as paint, presumably.
Exactly. And so you can just, you know, you can just on a test area, you can just test this out. So obviously, as you can see, I can make it as light or as pale as I would like. I can make even lighter washes with it if I just add a little bit more water, very, very subtle.
Mm.
Or if I just now put some water straight into where there's loads of coffee,
Yeah.
you can see it's a slightly different, it's even bubbly look, it's a slightly different consistency.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost quite gloopy. And you can see how dark and how thick I can get that. Apart from anything, it smells nice.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
smells,
Well, I think that's lovely, actually,
yeah.
that you're adding this extra sensory element to it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that before. I really like that. And
Yeah.
of course, while you're doing it, that brings up all kinds of things for conversation as well,
So,
doesn't it?
yeah, I think so. I think it does. And there's just something about also when this coffee dries, it has this slightly grainy sort of texture to it, which is quite nice. Now, there's another little effect that I show you later on down the line.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to quickly touch on that as we've got the coffee out. So if I just move this for a moment.
Yeah.
So here where we've got the little muffin kind of cake, gingerbread man, and these kind of steam areas, if I just zoom down, there we can see that a little bit better. So you've got this kind of splattery, sort of almost like literally chocolate drops or whatever, that kind of textural effect. So if we go back to the coffee page,
yeah,
what we can do there is create a wash. So wash is just an area of water. Create a wash like that. It could just be plain water, but we've got a brown wash. And then what we do is we grab some coffee granules that are dry. I'm just grabbing a little pinch. And you sort of powder them in your fingers.
Oh, that's fun.
And then as they land on the wet surface, you start to get this little bit of bleeding out or diffusing out of the colour. So that's quite yummy as well. Obviously, you'll need to wipe your hands afterwards, but you get this lovely little spatter. So once that's dry, we would do like maybe half a sheet with this effect, and then we can cut those bits out and make biscuits or gingerbread men or muffins or whatever. And I suppose we could even add a bit more water to there and have one of those little effects that they do, you know, and they give you a posh coffee.
Oh, do a nice little
yeah, would you like some? Yeah, exactly. You could that's a very good idea, Alison. I hadn't thought of that.
With a stencil or something, couldn't you? Yeah.
Love heart, whatever you like.
And also what's nice about that is you don't have to be too precious, because like you say, you could do a whole page just of the
whole page
effect.
just of that, playing around with it, just playing around with all the lovely textures. And you know, as you're doing it, some ideas might spring to mind of things you want to include. So I'm just giving you the basic techniques to help you to do that. And the good thing about any of these watercolor and coffee, these kind of thin layers of color, is that also you can draw into them afterwards, or you can have drawing, you know, you can have drawing and work over it on top with these layers. So it does allow you to play around with layers as well. So those are a couple of the examples there. And then bunting, that was right, the collage element. So we look back at our original finished piece. Try and get the camera straight. Yeah,
we can see that. Yeah,
well, we can see that. So we've got these different elements that have been collaged on. So for example, when I finished the cup and I finished the teapot, I cut those out and I stuck them onto my background where I had already drawn this checkered tablecloth. You don't have to do a checkered tablecloth. You could do any pattern you like, stripes, dots, love hearts. But I just quite like the simplicity of doing some different elements that are collaged on. For example, the bunting, with it being the Jubilee and goodness knows what else, there seems to just be a lot of bunting around.
There is an awful lot of bunting,
around, and it's nice to get the bunting out. So I thought, oh, actually I quite fancy doing something with bunting. So here I've just used some colored paper and cut out these triangles. So if you have some colored paper, or even if you have some wrapping paper, it could be anything like that. Just to demonstrate, I'm just going to use a little post-it for now. So I'm just going to use this little post-it, and literally all I've done there is use my little ruler So these little pieces of bunting, triangles of bunting, they measure about 3 centimeters across. So I'm just going to, and again, you can do yours a different size, but I'm just doing 3 centimeters across, and they measure about 5 centimeters down. And what I would do is instead of cutting out every single one, what I would do is I would get a piece of paper. This is just a plain white piece of paper. I'd get my piece of paper, I would fold it in half, fold it in half again, and maybe just one more time. I should have really drawn that triangle on there, but I'm just going to quickly sketch it.
Yeah.
There we go, like so. And then that allows you to then use your scissors. You don't want to fold it too many times or it gets quite difficult to cut. Okay.
But what's quite nice about that is you could, so if, for example, you know, NAPA works a lot with staff and activity providers in care settings, they could prep that first, couldn't they?
They could have that ready. Yeah, they could have all of the bunting ready, and then obviously then you can individually take your little pieces and place them in the arrangement that you like. I've just literally placed them individually. Oops, sorry. Individually.
Yeah.
With a little gap, and then I've drawn the little bit of like imaginary string in between. I've just placed them along there in a little kind of arc. And that's how I've done the bunting.
Yeah, I mean, I could really see what you could do with that is give people, you know, let them all do their own. It could be bunting with all kinds of different patterns, or you could do a theme. So that's a nice way that you could, you know, you can prepare it first and then do it you could do that in a group, or you could do the cups separately with people one to one.
You could have one session of doing cups and cup designs on the cup.
Yeah.
One session of doing teapots, and then, you know, I've done these little collage flowers, which are very, very simple, and I did those in the same way I did the bunting. So I just did the shape onto the bit of paper, so that then when I cut it out, they were all the same shape. They don't have to be the same shape. And then on a separate bit of paper, I cut out the circles.
But it's always good, those little tips for saving time, because we know that our audience, they're very busy. And it's just something, prepare it beforehand, have it to one side, and then you can get a nice group of people, have lovely discussion while you're doing it about tea, about cakes, about celebrations. And it's a lovely group picture then, isn't it?
Exactly. Plus, you know, they can be having a cup of tea.
Of course, yes, yes, definitely.
Exactly. So those are some of the ways that you can, you know, use these techniques to make your artwork. There are some elements here. Let's put this a bit closer, like the cakes. I mean, here with these cakes, again, I just cut out some small rectangles, and I used a biro, and I just used a ruler to draw these little lines as in cake linings, but you don't have to have those. And then the bit that I thought I did the whole picture, and I looked at it and I thought, what could I do to make it sort of jump out? And it was actually shadows that made it pop out, apart from the color scheme, because what I've gone for is a hot and cold contrast color scheme. So you've got your yellow. So basically I've kept the colors quite limited, not using every color in the box, but actually I've just gone for all shades of yellow and orange, and then the blue and the purple, which just give you sort of slightly cooler element to it. And obviously you've got the coffee, the brown, but that just means that the yellow makes the blue jump out. And then I added these little shadows, and these shadows I added in purple pencil, which I don't know if you've ever seen a color wheel. I really need to get one to show you. But if you see what's called a color wheel, it shows how all the colors link to each other, relate to each other. And the purple is a color that is opposite the yellow on the color wheel, and it's just a trick of the trade. That's how you get colors to pop.
And I remember my art teacher used to say, they zing, these complementary colours, they
oh
zing.
yes, the purple thing, that's the word, that's the word. But
We might get you, Katie, one time to come back and tell us a bit about the colour wheel.
Yes,
I think the nice thing about having an artist showing us stuff is for those of us that aren't confident, those little tips like adding the shadow and your beautiful magic techniques, it really brings it alive. And it's a simple image, but it's those little things give it that extra edge. And so that kind of tip from an artist, I think, is really helpful. It's really, you know, it's not something that I would have thought of. So yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah.
So I think that covers most of the elements on here. And
definitely, yeah.
I would say again, you know, this is just a starting point. There are other options on how you could develop this activity in your setting with your people, and you could personalize it and change it, you know, for different times of the year. Different types of foods could be brought into it. You know, it could be, you could do something like this in the summer where you've got a lovely, you know, fruit juices in a jug or something like that, and you've got glasses instead of cups. You could see where this could go. You know, it could go in lots of directions, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you could add cocktails, couldn't you?
Yeah,
That would be
umbrellas.
a fun thing. And I mean, talk to your group. You know, this is a starting point, a lovely way of having a discussion about drinks, parties, you know, memories of food. And you could really involve everyone in your care setting, involve the staff, involve the people you're working with, the relatives. You know, it's the discussion is part of the fun, bringing sharing memories, sharing ideas. Food's always a great topic, isn't it? People love talking about food.
They do.
And so maybe try this as a starting point, but then go from there. Yes, it could be a picnic, it could be at some kind of fiesta, some kind of, but all with different types of food. And as we say, involve your care setting, be led by them. What would they like to try and create? What food would they like to see on their image?
Exactly. And, you know, I think as well, like you say, you've got the food and then you've got the decoration aspect as well. So you can really have fun with that, you know, and changing that around for different likes and, you know, birthdays and themes like that. So yeah, so well, I've really enjoyed our chat, Alison, and I've really
that was fantastic
making this artwork, and I just really hope that everybody enjoys having a go.
Thank you so much, Katie, for sharing your little magic tips and expertise. That's fantastic. If you have a go at this, we would love to see your images. Please share them with us. You can share them on social media and tag in Arts in Care Homes, and then I'll you know, we'd love to see them. You can get in touch with Arts in Care Homes if you want advice or ideas. Our website is www.artsincarehomes.org.uk. And we're going to include, Katie's done a fantastic instruction sheet which shows step by step how to do it. So you can use this film, you can pause it, go back to it and use the instructions, and really basically just have fun in your care settings, being creative together. Thanks ever so much. Lovely. I hope we'll be joined by Katie again sometime, and keep an eye out because we're hoping to do more in this series. So thanks very much for joining us. Bye.
Bye.